What is up, everybody? Welcome back to Sunday Night Barking Browns podcast. We're back. We're back on Sunday night. We have switched streaming platforms. I somehow managed to lose our intro video, so we're working through a little bit of technical difficulties and some changes going on with some of the shows. So you're going to notice that over the next couple of weeks or so. So we appreciate you guys checking in. Make sure you hit that subscribe button, give us a thumbs up. We really don't have a sponsor right now, so if you want to be our sponsor, come sponsor us. Fuck, I don't know, something. I remembered that I forgot that we were supposed to be naming a giveaway, and I will get to that. I will get a giveaway winner announced this week. Welcome in. Hope you're having a fantastic weekend, gentlemen. How are we?
Remembering that you forgot, that's always important. Usually you do it the opposite way, but it's all good. I thought about doing this for my car just for vibes.
Yeah.
Because you said, we'll be with everybody will be live in studio and not in their cars. Like, nah, might just jump in my car and do it next week.
Fuck it. That's the way I normally you guys see me on Tuesday nights with Jacob on the draft show, but I said, you know what? I'm going to come join in on some Sunday night fun, some Sunday night delights, and I might join Case in my car or his car. I don't know. Somebody's car. I may just hop in the back of somebody's car. I'll do it from an Uber. That's what I'm going to do.
There we go. Now we're talking.
Jeff, if you send me $1, if you super chat us $1 and then DM me a paragraph ad read, I'll do it. But it can't be too bad.
What?
Whoa. Are you Andrew Barry making him fill out an essay before you even entertain his offer? What are you doing here?
No. What I'm saying is if he sends the money, he then needs to send whatever ad read he wants me to do.
Oh, okay.
That's what I'm saying. I'm not.
Should be for MC and Jeff's quarterback service.
Oh
Scouting service.
If he sends me $1, makes me read something about him being a quarterback guru, I swear to God.
It's the 63rd team, guys. That's who it is. It's the 63rd team.
Oh, God. I tell you what. It's been an interesting week. We still don't have a defensive coordinator. It seems that we'll touch on that a little bit later. The first thing I wanted to, off the top, is talk about the Browns do have a special teams coordinator. They have hired Bill knows his name. Bill, what's his name?
His name is Byron Storer. He's the formerly the assistant Green Bay special teams coordinator, coming over from Green Bay, of course. I know there's a lot about him that Browns fans aren't too happy about, but if you look at the analytics and you look at the stats and you look at the tape, Green Bay had at least 10 players last season with at least 100 special team snaps that graded 60 or higher on PFF, which is the average. Cleveland had 12. In that 12 also included Carson Schlesinger and Aiden Huntington, who also saw regular snaps. So when I watched the tape, it's not a downgrade. It's not an upgrade. I'll tell you that. But it's kind of going to be a slight uptick. It's going to be better than what we've had. Let's just say that.
Yeah, that was the thing. Is I always try to watch opposing fan bases, and like Green Bay Packer fans were like, "Yeah, great," and then I was like, "Shit." Like I don't need Packers fans celebrating that he's out the door. We thought maybe we'd get the defensive coordinator hire before this episode, but we didn't. But the first thing I want to do, we're here to talk about some off-season blueprints, right? Let's talk about some free agency. We're going to talk about what should the Browns do at number 6 overall. We'll do that in the tail end of the show. I stepped in it this week because I decided to step into the Malik Willis train, which resulted in some people not loving me very much. That was a lot of anger and whatnot when I suggested, hey man, like I think they should heavily consider targeting Malik Willis and bringing him in. So I thought that's where we're going to start this show off. Let's talk about it. So like Case, I'll send it to you and then to you, Bill, first, or to Case first, and you, Bill, and then I'll do my follow up because I've already made a short on this. So thoughts on why you want or don't want, the Malik Willis great debate.
I would like to compete right away. I would like to have a offense that can compete with whoever. And everybody always points to the sample size being low, which it is. But just the interest around the league tells you what the league thinks of him, which is something because he was had for a bucket of balls coming out of Tennessee.
Yeah.
But what he's shown since he's been in Green Bay, man. And I know everybody's going to point to Green Bay. Yeah, well, it's a functional offense. And yeah, that's what we want here. Shouldn't that be the end game to get a guy that can operate at that kind of a level? And most of those were, they were coming in off the bench. But at no point when you saw Malik Willis come off the bench was it a downgrade from Jordan Love. At no point were you watching like, man, they really missed their starter right now. The offense just hummed, So if you put him in a functional situation, he can operate. And then you add his skill sets in to what Monken likes to do, and you could see how it would work very, very easily. The problem is the price of the brick went up. You had the opportunity. You could have traded for the guy last offseason and got him for probably a third round, and now that price tag is going to be lofty. Just for as we sit here today, we're competing with Miami.
Mm-hmm.
That market's going to open up. There's going to be more teams than just Miami. But that's the obvious one because of all the personnel that went over to Miami from Green Bay. But yeah, if you have it's organizational malpractice to not attempt to get him. And this doesn't mean you can't develop the guys you already have. Yeah. But the likely outcome is he's probably not going to end up here. He's going to have choices. He's going to have options. But you have to swing, right?
Yeah, I'm right there with Case. I wrote about this earlier in the week over on my Substack, but my biggest concern is twofold. Number one, teams have chased upside at the quarterback position before in free agency. Matt Flynn, Mike Glennon, Sam Bradford, Nick Foles. The list goes on and on and on and on and on of guys that just didn't work out for. Either they had a strong stretch in their previous team and it just didn't carry over, or they, had a favorable environment and it didn't carry over. I'm for Malik Willis within reason. If you're telling me I have to pay $25 million APY to get him here, I'm out. My ceiling for him is probably somewhere between 15 to 17 million a year. And even then that's kind of stretching it, because if you're going to pay him that kind of money, you are automatically pretty much locking him in to be the starter. And like Case talked about, it needs to be a competition. And right now, yes, the only competition we have is Miami, but you could also add in Arizona. You could also add in a few other teams, depending on if Aaron Rodgers comes back or not. There's Pittsburgh added in. You could add in probably a quarter of the league, because the other issue is the market itself. There's only one quarterback in the 2026 NFL draft that's a day one starter, and that's Fernando Mendoza, who's going to go number one to Las Vegas. So now you have all those other teams, the Jets, us, Pittsburgh, Miami, Arizona, all these teams that would normally take a quarterback that now have to reach for Malik Willis, and it's going to turn into a bidding war. And if it does, it's like the auction. You let somebody else pay the price.
Yeah, see, I get that. I get that side of it, but I also look at there's a comment that I wanted to highlight. This is just a guy, a Packers fan, weighing in saying that he's a monster, doesn't want to see him go. In fact, his value is probably higher than the contract he will get. I said this earlier this week when I made the short. I'm kind of looking at Malik Willis like a draft prospect because he hasn't played a ton, and there's no one in this draft other than Fernando Mendoza that I would take over him. And so I look at the tools, I look at the upside, and I look at what Monken did with Lamar Jackson. Listen, Lamar, great player when he got there, when Monken came to town. He was. But if you want to talk about his evolution specifically as a passer, Todd Monken took him to a whole other level. And Todd Monken talked about athletic, being able to extend plays, big-armed quarterbacks as guys that he wants in his system, and that's what Malik Willis is. He checks all the boxes that Todd Monken said he's looking for. So to me, it's like I want to give Monken the opportunity to elevate Malik Willis the way he elevated Lamar Jackson. I know it's not the same thing because Lamar was already great, and I know it's going to be far riskier, because Lamar was already under contract and things like that. Yeah, there's a very good chance that they end up pricing themselves out. And if that is your biggest issue with the move, then I'm not going to argue. But if you try to say things like, we already got someone that has the same level of upside on the roster, i.e. Shitter Sanders, then I'm going to ask you what you're smoking. And if you could pass some of it off to me. Because from a raw physical tools and talent, Malik Willis has everything you want. It's, do you believe in your ability to develop him? And I've seen him do it a little bit with Lamar, but I didn't see him do it from scratch with Lamar. So that there is I can get that aspect of it too, where you're like, yeah, but Lamar already had this, and this. It's yep, that's fair. But for me, ultimately, he is the best chance you have at finding a franchise quarterback this offseason in terms of nothing in-house. And just because I think he's such a higher ceiling. But that's just where I'm at.
And let me jump in here too. I'm confident in this staff's ability to develop someone from the ground up because both Todd Monken and Mike Bajikian, who's the new quarterback's head coach, worked with Jameis Winston in Tampa Bay. And in Jameis's first 2 years with working with him, 4,000 plus yards both seasons. Jameis was actually the first quarterback in NFL history to do that under Bajikian and Monken. So I'm confident that they can do it. I am just not. If you're looking at the tier of quarterback pay, Justin Fields at $20 million a year, and then you spike to Sam Darnold, Baker Mayfield, Geno Smith at 33 to 38 million per year. There is a large gap there. So if you pass that Fields tier, I'm out.
I feel like the Fields tier is where he's at, but we'll see.
Yeah. I think that's fair. I think that I'm going to go a little higher. I'd be willing to go a little higher. I just think you solve a lot of problems, a lot of headaches. But it's, and then there's the whole, well, everything around him is not ready for the quarterback to be dropped in. And that's true. I mean, the offensive side is bereft of talent.
Yep.
But I'm tired of just banging my head. The thing is, quarterbacks with his skill level, as far as what his ceiling could be, they don't hit the open market because the team would just keep him. They got Jordan Love. They're invested. They can't. So we're in a rare situation where a guy with starting level talent is going to hit the market. Now, he's not shown he could do that over the long term because he's not the starter in Green Bay. And Bill said Matt Flynn's name. I think that's a painful reminder because he had a small run when Aaron was hurt, when Rodgers was hurt, and Matt Flynn cashed a check. Now, he never even got to even play because they also drafted Russell Wilson, and it played out weird. So we don't even know what he would have been had he actually got the run. But at the end of the day, like this is a position that doesn't hit the market, man. And when it does, it will be overvalued because it's scarcity. And if there would have been a plethora of guys coming in the draft this year at the position, maybe it wouldn't make as much noise as it's going to. But because of the scarcity of the guys influx from college, I probably lose this bet to Brad Ward. He probably gets close to 30.
He probably does get close to 30. Is he better than Darnold? Just asking to figure out the position. In terms of physical talent, yeah, because Darnold doesn't have that level of athleticism.
Yep.
If you're asking strictly from a talent standpoint, now Darnold literally had just won 14 games as a starter, and Malik's never done anything like that. So, but
14 games as a starter.
Well, now I'm just saying when he got the deal from Seattle, when Seattle gave him that deal, he had that's where what he was coming off of before doing that. But my thing too is like we had this discussion last year where we were talking about coming out of the draft after they had made the trade back taken Mason Graham, they had taken Dylan Gabriel, they had taken Shedeur Sanders, and we all talked about what a luxury it would have been to find a quarterback in one of those guys so that we could now use 2 first-round picks without needing a quarterback. You're kind of back in that spot if you take Malik Willis, because if you sign Malik Willis, because you're obviously, no matter what you're not using, you should not be using any of those first round picks on a quarterback, rather you sign Malik Willis or not. But you're kind of back in that position that we wanted to see ourselves in the sense that, like, okay, we can go get a tackle, 2 tackles, a tackle and a guard, a tackle and a wide receiver, 2 wide receivers, whatever. We're going to get to that debate in a second towards the tail end of the show. But you kind of put yourself back in that spot. And that's why, to me, I'm willing to swing for the fences for quarterback always. That's just where I'm at. And when you talk about in terms of what is that ceiling for Malik Willis, it's very high. It is very high. What's the floor? It's probably pretty low. But like he could flame out, because as we've seen such limited, but like when you watch him in the first 2 years when he was with Tennessee, limited sample size there and limited sample size because he only threw 5 passes his second year at Tennessee. But and then you look at him in Green Bay, you can see a more confident, polished, developed player where being with Matt LaFleur has made a difference, which Sam Darnold will talk about the difference being with Kyle Shanahan for a year. And then going to Kevin O'Connell, and then all of a sudden he knew he was that dude again, and he went and was able to do it. Well, of course, he had Clint Kubiak. Let's not act like Kubiak's not a great influencer too, but that's just kind of where I'm at. That's where I'm at. This is a good question, though, Jeff brings up, is how much does Todd Monken love Sanders? Because it might kill this whole conversation. It could. You could be right. He has shown, we've seen video evidence that there's at least some intrigue between Todd Monken and Shedeur Sanders. And I even said in my short, I was like, that I was like, this could all be moot because your head coach might be like, no, I can make Shedeur a franchise quarterback. And if that's what Monken thinks, then that's what they should do.
Yeah. I don't see a world where Shedeur is the unquestioned starter. Let's get that right now. If you told me Todd Monken was in love with Shedeur and he wants Shedeur to be that guy, I'm all for that. If you say Todd Monken pencils Shedeur in as QB1 going into training camp, I'm all for that. But to sit here and say it's written in Sharpie, it's highlighted, it's red underlined, no. Monken knows and Andrew Berry knows they have to add talent to this quarterback room, because outside of Shedeur, you have Dylan Gabriel, who didn't look great. You have Deshaun Watson, who hasn't looked great. What else do you have? You have Shedeur Sanders, who was a 5th-round pick. And yes, I had a first-round grade on Shedeur Sanders, and I will continue to say that. But there were times last year where Shedeur looked like a 5th-round pick. Yes, is it harder to evaluate behind the turnstile of offensive tackles and captain drops a lot in Jerry Jeudy? Yes. But there's also stuff that you have to see from a quarterback prospect that I didn't see from Shedeur. Now, going into year 2, can I see that? Yes. But to sit here and say, yeah, he's the guy and I'm not bringing in any competition, no, that is organizational malpractice, and that's how head coaches become one and done in the NFL.
That's my whole thing is the most likely scenario is Shedeur Sanders is the starter. He's already on the roster. That's the most likely scenario that's going to play out here. But I'm saying if you have a guy who shows higher flashes already, I would take the swing. But at the end of the day, you're probably not going to wind up with him. So it's going to be Shedeur. So what do they do to bring in competition? Do they sign a Trey Lance? Do they go get another journeyman just that knows Todd's system? Is it Tyler Huntley? Is it Snoop Huntley? Something else needs to happen along the lines to bring someone else in. But at the end of the day, this probably is going to be Shedeur's team just because he's already here.
Multiple Pro Bowl quarterbacks on the roster. Let's go.
Yeah. Anyway, so let's move past that. Let's talk about building around the outside of the quarterback
Yes.
position. Let's talk about some key free agents and some things we would like to do. Because no matter what, they have to build around the quarterback position, even if the quarterback is already on the roster and Shedeur Sanders, because around him is dog shit. You're right. It is hard to evaluate his 7 starts in a really meaningful way because of the turnstiles that were around him.
Well, the big difference is when we look at Malik, we see someone in a functional offense who is allowed to flourish because of the functionality, and then the opposite is true. It's it was a dumpster fire on offense. So to ask anybody to go behind center and show you real success, that's uphill battle.
Yeah, right. And I thought there were some issues from Shedeur where I was like, man, I know he's better than that ball placement wise. And I'm like, I wonder how much of that got in his head and things like that as the year went on, which is kind of interesting because he got the shit beat out of him in college. So, but they hit harder in the NFL. So and
the windows close faster. Everything's sped up.
It's all a little bit, and there's some adjustment stuff, and Todd Monken very well could already have, I'm sure Monken's already in the lab, yes, I did. I sold my piano. Shit, Brian. I sold my piano. Little inside joke from the Tuesday shows. So key free agents. Let's talk about some free agencies. One thing that I wanted to do, and I will go around. I want to start with, let's talk about a free agent we want to bring back. Okay. So I'll start and then we'll each name one. If you got more than one, we can work that in. And then we'll kind of talk about some outside free agents we would like to see. For me, it's Devin Bush, man. I need Devin Bush to stay in Cleveland. It's also why, and we'll talk about the DC position, it's also why I'm advocating for Jason Tarver is Devin Bush. It's like the 2 years Devin Bush has been in Cleveland, I'm like, this is why I'm very happy to promote Devin Bush or Jason Tarver and see what he could do, because Bush was the definition of a top 10 bust, right? Did not work out for the Pittsburgh Steelers. They traded up to get him. He bombed out. He went to spent a year in Seattle. He was fine in Seattle, whatever. He comes to Cleveland, doesn't really play right out the gate. It's kind of up and down, but had some really good run defense reps in 2024. And then last year, he was fantastic, top to bottom. Dude was awesome in coverage, was awesome. He was all over the place. It was just like he got to work. Jason Tarver got 2 years to work, because we always have known that Devin Bush was an insane athlete. That's why he went top 10. He's a crazy athlete at that position. It's just the mental processing and the diagnosing and figuring out where he needs to be, when he needs to be there, wasn't always there. He works with Jason Tarver for a couple of years, and he's really, really good. And him with Carson Schlesinger and, God willing, JOK, that version of Devin Bush, if they add JOK back to it, that's a crazy linebacker room. But for me, in terms of bringing back a free agent, it would be Devin Bush as the number one guy I'm looking to bring back.
I'm looking through the list, man. I don't see gotta haves. I don't look at any one of these guys as, I would point to Emerson, Martin Emerson, would probably the guy I would circle. And I think you're going to get a friendly deal because of the way his injury happened last year. Yeah. I believe in him as the player. But you've also upgraded in his absence, with Tyson Campbell.
Oh yeah.
It's there's not a clear path to him being on the field. So because if he's going to sign for a sweetheart deal, he might do that with another team. But when I'm just looking through, do I think we have to have Jerome Ford?
Probably not.
Tevin Jenkins, I think there's an argument to be had for Tevin Jenkins.
I think so.
But when I'm looking at the roster, I'm actually looking at guys going into their contract year, going into their fourth year that I think they'll get ahead of, like a Ronnie Hickman or McGuire. You know what I mean? Those are players that I look at that I expect something to probably get done early, sooner rather than later. But I don't look at any of these guys as you have to have it.
Okay.
Yeah, I would say there's two names that I like Case said, you don't have to have these guys, but I would like to see them. Number one is Tevin Jenkins. Because we watched Tevin Jenkins perform pretty well at the right guard spot in the Buffalo game and the Cincinnati game. It wasn't great. It was league average. And when you're going to have to replace 5 spots on the offensive line, something's going to have to be league average. And that's where I'd want that. But the second one is more of a selfish thing. I want to see Malachi Corley in a Todd Monken offense.
Oh,
I want to see it. Give it to me. Inject it into my veins. Now, I'm not saying go out and sign him to a 5-year deal, but another 1-year prove-it deal and bring him back, I'm all for that. But like you said, I think outside of those 3 and Devin Bush, Tevin Jenkins, and Malachi Corley, there isn't really a free agent that you've got to have.
This is an interesting one. Talking about Bitonio. Bitonio would return for Shedeur. I'm interested to see, because doesn't the contract void tomorrow?
Yep.
On Monday?
Tomorrow's the void date.
It becomes very interesting to see what they do with him. Rather, it's like a 1-year extension to avoid that cap hit, whatever. I don't know. And that sort of thing. So
just read the tea leaves. He looked done to me.
Yeah.
And you listen to his voice when he was talking about it. It felt like it was almost inevitable that he was going to be gone. But if I was going to pick one of the guys to bring back out of that dumpster fire of an offensive line, it would be Joel Bitonio.
Yeah. If I could only have one of them back, it would be Joel. Just but yet physically, man, like it's just you can tell. You can kind of tell with a lot of those older veterans, especially the big guys, how it kind of wears them down. And he does look like a guy that kind of was. He looked like a guy that was kind of saying goodbye. If we're being
like a guy whose back hurts.
Yeah. Been there, done that, Joel. You don't have to. Really rationalize that with me, because I completely get that from back problems. So let's talk about some free agency targets, right? Okay, mm-hmm. So I'll start with you, Bill, because you put out a short on this already. But Give me a name, man. It can be the name that you put a short out on, or it can be a different name. But just give me a name that, if you were Cleveland, that's not Malik Willis, because we talked about that. But somebody you would be very interested in heavily pursuing in free agency.
Yeah, so I've dropped 2 shorts and 3 names. The first one, Tyler Linderbaum, center. Listen, when you're building an offensive line, one of the easiest positions to fix, as well as one of the hardest positions to fix, is the center position, because you've got to get a guy who can build up that rapport with his quarterback, especially snapping the football. And we've seen what Monken did with Linderbaum in Baltimore. He used him in athletic ways to get him into space, to help him move that offensive line, even when the guards next to him weren't exactly the greatest on planet Earth. If you are wanting to build an offensive line, the first thing you look at is your tackles. And then you look at your centers, because those 3 positions, tackle, center, tackle, are going to define the offensive line. And then the other side of it, I talked about it, this offense needs some juice and needs some speed. And we just watched Seattle win the Super Bowl with Rashid Shaheed and his vertical juice. Listen, you take a 2-year flyer on Shaheed and you get a 4-year deal for Linderbaum, I'm all for that, because now you've added juice to the wide receiver position. You've fixed the center position at the offensive line. And like, for me, you're looking now at Linderbaum at center, Tevin Jenkins at right guard. You find a left guard in the draft, or you find a bargain bin left guard, and then you fix your tackles in the draft. And now you've revamped the offensive line in one flip.
And they just have to be league average, and it would be significantly better than last year. Literally all 5 of them. However it is, if you can find a way for all 5 of the offensive linemen to be average, and even 1 or 2 of them can be slightly below average, and it'd be a massive upgrade. Mm-hmm. So I'll kick the same question to you, Case. Is there any name or 2 that sticks out pending free agents that you'd be interested in the Browns pursuing heavily?
Well, I'm always going to be a believer in former talents. Me and Andrew Berry share this. One thing is like, if Treylon Burks' name if they wanted to phone him, I'd I'd be pretty happy about it. But just practically, if I'm not looking at sexy names. I'm looking. Everyone keeps making the assumption like, well, the reason Njoku's gone is because of Fannin. From a target share perspective, yes, but they don't play the same position. Mm-hmm. You still need to, if Chief's truly gone, and I feel that he is, you got to bring someone in that can do the inline stuff and allow you to play 12 personnel. And I look at someone like Kate Otten, maybe. Mm-hmm. That's a name that I would look at right there.
He said, yeah. They look like the Five Stooges last year, Connie said.
She's not wrong.
No, she's not. And I'm glad you mentioned Treylon Burks too, just because the other name that I'll also throw out there is kind of in that same mold of the special former first round pick type of guy, Evan Neal from the Giants. I know he's struggled at tackle, but kick him inside the guard. And now you have, in that scenario, you have Tevin Jenkins, Linderbaum, and Evan Neal as your three guys on the interior. That's a massive upgrade.
Yeah. I'm looking through this list here because I was like, I'm just curious if there's anybody that says you need offensive linemen regardless of the quarterback. Yeah, and that's my thing too. Is like you got to do both. You got to look at, or the quarterback will get broken. Yeah. Is Patrick Ricard free agent? Is it?
Yes.
Oh, he's my answer. He's my answer to this question. I did not realize Patrick Ricard was a free agent. Like, I mean, we've seen him. We've already seen Monken raiding that offensive staff already. Like, oh, there's a name. Yeah, Josh, you just threw it out there. Reunion with Kevin Zeitler. He's still pretty good guard. He's played what for the entire AFC North at this point? He hasn't played for Pittsburgh, has he?
No, he has not.
No.
That's one name in there. That's a good name. Patrick Ricard's a good name.
I almost feel like Zeitler's a fallback, though, just because of his age.
Yeah, he's 30. My age. Thank you for that. Really, I appreciate it.
I mean, you'd be going into year 14 in the league. It's a lot of wear and tear.
It's a lot of wear and tear on my body, and I don't do anything nearly that physical. So, yeah. He is he's a year older than Joel. That's interesting. I guess I can remember them being together. It seems like Joel's been here for forever. You know what I mean? Like it just 10 years as an offensive line. This comment's coming. This is a good comment here. We went to the moon. We can't change the O-line in 1 year.
He's not wrong.
No, we can change it. It will be effective changes. We can definitely.
Yes.
You have to change it. You structure contracts in such a way that you're going to have to reshuffle the deck. But, it's the scarcity of quality offensive linemen is the biggest pain. Mm-hmm. No one talks about it in the NFL, man. Everybody's like, well, they were a top 7 offensive line. That doesn't mean they were good. There's like 3 good offensive lines. Everyone has working around limitations because there's a weak link on every team. I promise.
If you go and look, like me and Bill do this a lot, but like if you go and look at like the PFF mock draft simulator, it has team needs for everybody, and I guarantee you at least 20 of them either say guard or tack. Some of them will just say O-line because they just need it. They need every position on there, but they'll talk about teams' biggest needs, and almost every team has at least a tackle or a guard need. So yeah, it's they just need to be better. Like they don't have to be fixed, but
you said league average.
Yes,
league average.
Come on,
just get to league average collectively, and whoever the quarterback is going to have at least a little bit more success, at least at minimum.
Yes.
At minimum, whoever it is, even if it somehow ends up being Dylan Gabriel. I'm not saying I'm wishing for that. I'm just saying that's how bad it was.
And the thing is, too, we don't talk about it enough. Todd Monken can scheme up ways to make a below average offensive line look good. You just have to get to below average. When you're in dumpster fire, the only thing that's going to make that look good is triple zeros on the clock and everyone's going home.
They just all go and retire at halftime. Just walk out.
Pull the Vernon or the Vontae Davis. I want to go home, boss. I'm tired.
That is still to me probably the wildest thing I think I've ever seen.
Yeah.
I don't know if I've seen anything. Well, Antonio Brown, his was worse.
Yeah.
His was worse. he took off everything, started from. Which, like, if you're going to go out that way, that's one way to go out.
Yeah,
right?
Just go.
That's crazy. Let's talk about the defensive coordinator position for just a second. Then we're going to talk about the great debate of what to do with the 6th overall pick to wrap up this episode. I'm having a lot of fun because normally we would be wrapping this up and Casey would be in his car, but
my phone would have died 3 times from being too hot.
Yep, at least 3 times from being too hot. But so the defensive coordinator seems to be down to 3 people.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And my first question to you guys is, I guess the first thing I should probably do is tell the people who those 3 people are. That would probably help. Yeah. Mary Kay put this out very recently. I think it's within the last hour. About a couple hours ago. It's been about a couple hours now. She says they're down to 3 finalists. The defensive pass game coordinator from the Texans, Corey Undlin, who's kind of been the favorite all along, but they just requested an interview. Like, a lot of people said he was the front runner for like a long time, but they just got around to requesting and interviewing him this week, which I thought was kind of interesting. Jason Tarver, the Browns linebacker coach, and the Falcons, Mike Rutenberg. What is Rutenberg? He's their
passing game coordinator.
He's also the passing game coordinator. Okay. Yeah, yep. That's what I said. Okay. So it's down to those 3 guys. Is there somebody that has been eliminated that you would prefer to be over those 3 guys, or are you good with those guys being the 3 finalists?
I think, and I'm not even good with those 3 as the 3 finalists. I'm good with Corey Undlin and Jason Tarver, I think, is your final 2. Just because Undlin has experience working with Schwartz's scheme and Tarver's been here. Rutenberg, he just seems kind of an out of left field type of guy, because this is a guy who spent, before he was Atlanta's defensive passing game coordinator this past season, he spent 3 seasons as the Jets linebackers coach, then was the passing game specialist in San Fran in 2020, and then was a defensive coach in some way, shape, or form in Jacksonville from 2013 to 2019. So this is a guy that just seems kind of one of those, let's get him in here and let's see what he knows. Maybe not as defensive coordinator, maybe as a spot on the staff, on the defensive staff. If you promote a Tarver, for example, this could be your new linebackers coach. That's what Rutenberg feels like to me, but it feels like it's Undlin versus Tarver, and they're just deciding, do we want Undlin's experience with Schwartz's scheme, or do we want to keep the familiarity with Tarver in-house?
I've been Team Tarver since day one, so I'm completely cool with that being the outcome of him being a finalist. I just never heard him speak and not been impressed. Every time that I hear Tarver get on a mic, and then and maybe we just fall for it too many times, but when a guy just talks ball, when a guy's all ball, and that's all Tarver is every time he speaks, and when he elaborates, when you ask him to speak about specific players and what they do and how he integrates that into the scheme and stuff. But at the end of the day, I believe in this personnel. If they were to go Undlin, or if they either way, Tarver, Undlin, I don't think you're really losing with either one. Now, I don't know enough about the passing game coordinator from Atlanta to speak educatedly on who he is or what his beliefs are. But it did, like Bill said, for me, it felt like that came out of left field today.
Yeah.
That name was grouped with those other guys. But I look at the body of work and what Tarver has done, and Lance Risland told us this when he joined us, it's not about what you know as a coach, it's about what you can get your players to know. And Tarver seems to be a master communicator in that way, to where everyone you've ever given him, he's gotten plus play out of. And I always circle back, and I feel like it's. I'm not trying to get people catch strays, but like Reggie Ragland looked damn good with Jason Tarver. You know what I mean? Like, and that dude's not in the league, and the second he was gone from us, no longer in the league.
We were talking about re-signing him
because he gets that kind of play out of his players. And I think he's respected in the locker room. And I just want to. Whatever you do, a defensive coordinator, you have to bring in someone in that can assimilate what they're already doing, because the thing you need to do is play fast. Defense, alignment, assignment, and keys. As long as these guys aren't thinking in their heads and they're just reacting and doing what they kind of already know. So I would do it for continuity's sakes with Tarver. But if you're telling me Unland is that familiar with the scheme and he can look and see what he has and keep them playing aggressive like that, I'd be all for it.
I think I'm fine with either one of those two guys. I think you both have made the case for both of those guys. I think in that kind of thing. Jeff asked the question: Is it a worry with Tarver that no one else interviews him to be a DC to move up the ladder? It doesn't for me. I mean, he's been a DC before, so he has the experience. He's done it. But it also could be one of those situations where he's liked the setup that he's had. Sometimes you get that, and sometimes they wait it out, and then like he may end up waiting it out and getting to be Myles Garrett's coordinator, and that's pretty cool.
And it's also somewhat of a who you know type of thing. And for Mike Rutenberg, this is the case, right? Rutenberg has cut his teeth under Robert Saleh's staff, and he got an interview for Tennessee Titans as their defensive coordinator because he knows Robert Saleh. So I'm not so much concerned about Tarver not getting those interviews, because a lot of those interviews are who you know. Because when those guys get promoted to head coach, what's the first thing they're doing? They're looking at position. They're rating their staff. We see it right now with Clint Kubiak rating Seattle and going back and forth. So for me, I'm Unland. I'm an Unland guy because I've seen what he's done. He cut his teeth in 2004 under Bill Belichick as a defensive coaching assistant. He's worked under Romeo Crennel. He's worked in Philadelphia with Jim Schwartz. He's worked in Detroit. He's worked under Kyle Shanahan. He's worked under DeMeco Ryans. This is a guy who's cut his teeth under some of the best defensive minds in football, and even some of the best coaching minds, because he was a pass game specialist for Kyle Shanahan. So he knows how to attack a Shanahan offense. Which defense does that really well? Cleveland's. So I would be okay with Unland, but I'm with you guys. If it's Unland or if it's Tarver, I think those are the two. I think Rutenberg was one of those interviews where if they promote Tarver, it never MC. I will not apologize to Schwartz for strong arming the entire.
Hold on. Wait till I follow it up with Jeff's comment.
Yes. Banned. Because listen, I'm going to get on my soapbox just for a little bit.
Oh, no.
When you are a defensive coordinator, offensive coordinator, any sort of high-level coaching position, there is a amount of professionalism that you have to have in the NFL. It does not have to be 100% robotic professional, but you have to have an amount of professionalism. When your employer then fires the head coach, you don't automatically get the job. You need to have something to hang your hat on. And I'm going to tell you this right now, Jim Schwartz, you didn't. Because you know what? Myles Garrett, Mason Graham, and Carson Schlesinger did more for the Cleveland Browns defense than you did. Because I watched a lot of tape where I saw the ball getting ran left, right, inside, outside. And you know what I saw from Schwartz? Not a single adjustment. So now I'm expected for you to be the head coach of a team and coach both sides of the ball and still be unable to adjust? No, I'm good. Thanks, but no thanks. You can stay as DC or you can move on. You wanted to leak it that you had all these other offers and that the Browns were going away and you wanted to work through all these types of things. I'm good. You can stay as DC or you can stay home. I'm good.
Jimmy's infatuation made that whole situation weird because, like, I have no problem with Schwartz wanting the gig and doing his best to get it. But when you start undermining the actual process and you start leaking things, like at that point, Haslam should have that should have been it right there. That should have been strikes 2 and 3, but for whatever reason, it wasn't.
Yeah. All right. Final topic. Oh no, actually, do you guys want to play a round of speedy trivia against Casey? This is for Case because we have a bet going. Do you want to do that now or after the last topic?
I'm fine either way.
Just so you know,
on that.
We leave on that. Okay. Yeah. Just so you know, Bill, you still owe me a short of you eating baby carrots. I did not forget.
Yes. I do still owe you that.
I don't forget. And I also owe $10 to a charity of Case's choice because I forgot to ask him about that. But I will get to that in a moment. Okay. So there's been a lot of debate going around. I did a poll on our TikTok or our Twitter page asking people what they would prefer to do with the 6th overall pick. Mm-hmm. I got some interesting responses. And so my thing was tackle O-line because like you can make a case that like if you draft Francis Mauigoa, the right tackle from Miami, there's a chance he ends up finding his long-term home at guard. I think he's a tackle, but he may end up out as a guard. So I put tackle / O-line to alleviate that problem. Wide receiver, then I put defense. I put downs in parentheses because I kind of thought that's the only one people were going to be willing to vote for defensively. But then I got some responses that they wanted some others too. So I was like, I thought that was interesting. Or trade back. So wide receiver won with 44%, 33% was tackle O-line, 19% was trade back, and 4% voted for a defensive player. Mm-hmm. So that's a great debate. I was very interested. I thought wide receiver, like being separated, wide receiver being 11% higher than O-line actually surprised me. I figured it would be pretty close with both of those two. I figured a handful of people would want to trade back and maybe a handful of people would want the defense. But I really thought that that the wide receiver tackle would be closer. And then I thought, because here's the thing. One's a sexier position, and most people out there are just now getting around to the draft, and they're not freaks like Bill and I, and who know that the wide receiver class is incredibly deep, and that's why we would go tackle first, because I will start to say that some of these tackles are warming up on me. Some of them are I'm getting a little bit more excited about them. For me, I think you can get game-changing wide receivers on day 2. I do think there's few of them out there, and that's why. And I'm not so sure that about tackles. Interior offensive line, I do think you can get game-changing interior, but not tackles. So for me, it's ultimately because of the strengths and weaknesses of this class. I say tackle, O-line first. What say you, Case?
Well, like if you talk about like the beginning of the second round for offensive tackle, you're talking about a project. You're talking about a guy. Yeah, he might have that upside, but you're not going to get that. That's not a day one guy, Whereas if Big Francis is there at 6, that's a plug it and forget it, man. Like, like, and then that's and he might be your right tackle, but that's your right tackle until the contract's up, and then So for me, it's Big Francis or Fano. And then if those guys aren't on the board, yes, you're probably either trading down or you're going to wide receiver. And I have no problem if you want to get your value that way as far as finding a game-changing wide receiver, because there would be one there at 6. But fundamentally, if you can't win in the trenches in this league, those skill players go to waste. Mm-hmm. So I just if one of those two are on the board, I got to go offensive line.
Yep.
Yeah. For me, it's offensive line because 4 of my top 5 tackles, which includes Francis Mauigoa, Caleb Lomu, Spencer Fano, and Monroe Freeling, there is a very high likelihood that all 4 of those guys are off the board before pick 20. Not 24 when Cleveland's back, pick 20. Because, like we talked about earlier in the episode, you could make the argument that 3/4 of the league needs offensive tackle play. So guess what's going to go quickly? It's supply versus demand. And that's the problem you have to have. So for me, I'm taking an offensive tackle at 6 because of the supply versus demand. And in addition, like Jacob talked about, this wide receiver class gets pretty deep. I have 10 wide receivers in my top 51 players on my board right now. That's how good this class is. But the one thing that we don't talk about enough, and it needs to be talked about just a tad bit more, is the quarterback coach, Cleveland Browns quarterback coach, Mike Birjakan, former Utah offensive coordinator.
Mm-hmm.
You mean to tell me he doesn't have some inside information on Spencer Fano or Caleb Lomu that makes them the pick at 6?
And also check out Monroe Freeling at the combine, because I think that dude is going to blow the doors off athletically. That is the left tackle from Georgia. I'm riding a high with him. Maybe he'll be in an upcoming. We just dropped a profile about him.
Yeah, we just dropped a profile in which I compared him to Anthony Costanzo, Andrew Luck's former blindside tackle. Listen, there's a lot of people that like Monroe Freeling. Jacob's one of them. I'm one of them. I am to a point, Jacob, and I'm gonna play it right here, right now. I would take Monroe Freeling at 6 right now because I see the athletic traits and I see the sky high ceiling.
Casey, I know you've probably not done a lot of work on Monroe Freeling, because I know you're just not getting around to the draft. But do you want me to tell you what I started off, what his weakness was what I started off with his weakness, and tell me if that's enough for you to say no, it can't be a top 10 pick?
What you got? Kick it.
He's an average run blocker.
And then you know what
I just think he needs to get a little bit stronger. That's it. Get a little bit stronger, and I'm like golden.
And I followed it up with that. I texted you this, Jacob. I remember I texted you this, and I immediately heard your jaw hit the floor all the way here in Indianapolis. His wingspan, 84 inches.
84-inch wingspan is insane. Jake, brother, dude. We love you so much. Seriously, brother. Thank you. We really do appreciate that. Hanging out with us. That will help stock my commissary account for quite some time. If you don't know what that's about,
tune in on Tuesdays. That's where we talk about Jacob's commissary account.
But no, that was my biggest issue, is that I think he just needs to get stronger. But Freeling is a freaky athlete at left.
Do you think he's day one starter?
Yes.
Yes.
I think he's the best. Yes, I think he's the best pass protecting tackle in the class.
Okay.
Francis Malinois is right there with him. I know. That's why I didn't say it. That's why I almost didn't say it.
It's 1A, 1B. Malinois is 1A, Freeling's 1B. They're right there. Those two are above everyone else.
And then one's a right tackle, one's a left tackle. So if you immediately are like, it's got to be left, then it's like, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Well, before we go, you draft psychos, let me pose a scenario, because there's been a lot of talk about Caleb Downs. Downs is probably viewed as the only defensive blue chip player as we sit today, but because of the position he plays, it's hard to imagine someone comes up for him. But in the odds that it's Jerry Jones and he's on the phone,
he would.
And you get the appropriate value with, you get their first two, and then you get a fourth or a third next year to make the value right. What would you do with that pick?
If I was at 12?
Yeah. You guys are dick deep in the mud here, in the draft mud. So like what would your move be at 12 if that's what they were doing, just accumulating assets?
So I've traded back to 12. I'm probably getting one of those tackles at 12.
Yeah.
I'm probably getting like Caleb Lomu, the left tackle from Utah. Spencer Fano might fall a little bit because some people have some questions about speed and size.
Yeah.
So he may fall into the teens. Here's the thing. Charlie Chuck poses the question: DeJuan can pass block, he can't run block, and you want another at 6. First off, Monroe Freeling. It's not that Monroe Freeling can't run block; he's just average at it. He's just average, and he is a million times the athlete that DeJuan Jones is. Not comparable at all. Not comparable at all to me.
No.
But yeah, no, I think Caleb Lomu, probably Spencer Fano, one of those guys. You can still get one of those tackles, but I do think they start to get gone by 15 or 20, like Bill said. So I did a mock for Browns Wire. I wrote it up. It hasn't published yet. I traded back to 13 with the Rams, and I took Spencer Fano because I think that's probably the range he goes in. So I think trading back but staying in the top 15, you're still in a really good spot to get a starting tackle, I think.
Yeah, I think if someone calls you for Caleb Downs, you move out of that pick. I do want to throw this out there in a couple of notes. First off, Caleb Downs is my number 1 overall prospect. He is the only blue chip prospect I have on my board in this class. However, you look at the last 6 years, so this is 2020 to this past season. In 4 of those years, we have seen at least 4 offensive tackles or wide receivers go in the top 10. 2 of those years, we only had 2 offensive tackles, no wide receivers. The last time a safety went in the top 10, Jamal Adams. Last time before that, Eric Berry, Kyle Hamilton, and even then Hamilton was 14th. Positional value is a real thing in NFL war rooms. Folks have to understand that. When you are looking at positional value in team building, you have your quarterback or you get him. You protect your quarterback. So that's left tackle, right tackle. You get after the team's opposing quarterback. It's pass rusher. And then everything else is supplementary. Pass catchers, running backs, corners, safeties. You got to get a quarterback, you got to protect the quarterback, and you got to get after the opposing team's quarterback. Guess what? We don't really have a quarterback, and we can't really take one because Mendoza's going 1. We already can get after the team's quarterback with Myles Garrett, Mason Graham, Carson Schlesinger. Let's protect the quarterback. Build for the team. Let's stop running into the wall and saying, yep, let's just go spend a top 10 pick on a quarterback and hope he makes it. Put an offensive infrastructure in place. And then in 2027, if Shedur's not the guy, well, Shedur's not going to be the guy. Guess what? Now you're picking in the top 3 of a quarterback class that right now, as we sit here in February, looks really good, but that can change. But with names like Dante Moore, Arch Manning, CJ Carr, DJ Lagway, I could sit here for the next 3 hours and go on and on. So for me, offensive tackle at 6 is where I'm sitting.
All right, Casey, are you ready?
Let's find out.
All right. $10 to the charity of choice for the loser. You know what I meant. You got 1 minute on this. 1 minute. Just so you know, did I successfully get through this in 1 minute? I did not. I will hit the start time. I will read you the question, give you a brief second to think about it, then I'll hit the start timer. All right.
Yes.
Charlie Chuck saying he saw Freeling on his ass a lot as a run blocker. I didn't
see that.
I didn't see that because more of his issues are like, because he's such a great athlete, he's just not a people mover. He more locks them up than moves them. But that's fine. That's fine. Just agree to disagree on that one. All right. Sadly, I'm convinced I'm not. What's he say here? Sadly, I'm concerned. I'm not convinced that any tackle is worth our pick at 6 if Lineman and Tate are on the board. I do think that Maui Noah Font. I think there are definitely tackles that are worth the pick. But I also think that Lineman and Tate are awesome playmakers, and if they make that pick, I'm not going to be. That's what I want to be clear about. If they pick one of these dynamic playmakers, even though I would prefer to go with the lineman, if they pick one of those dynamic playmakers, I'm not going to be mad about that. Hell no. There's just my preference. Okay. In NFL history, there are 3 quarterbacks that have won the Super Bowl with a last name starting with the letter F. Can you name them and go?
With a letter F?
Yeah, starting
Favre.
Favre. Yep, that's Brett Favre has won a Super Bowl.
Yeah. Wait, now they're screaming out to me here.
You're gonna probably get mad at one of them.
I was gonna say I know which one he's gonna get mad at.
Oh yeah, I do too.
Without saying too much.
Yeah. F.
Both of them in the 2010s.
Yes.
Really?
One of them, and I don't know how much time he's got left, but I'll give him
15
some help.
seconds.
One of them we talked about earlier in the episode.
Uh-huh. One of them played for the Cleveland Browns.
Yeah, I got nothing.
You couldn't get Joe Flacco out of there?
No, Christ.
Or Nick Foles?
Or Nick Foles?
No, I didn't.
Boom, baby. Yeah, that
Mm.
I got Flacco and I got Favre. I couldn't get Foles. When my dad called me and asked, Foles was the one I couldn't.
You said the letter F, and for whatever reason, this guy didn't even win a fucking Super Bowl before. I could not get Fran Tarkenton's fucking name out of my head. It kept bouncing around.
Dude,
Not even the last name, didn't even win a Super Bowl.
I did the same thing. When my dad was like, Fran Tarkenton. I'm like, wait, that's his first name.
Yeah, it's his first name, and he didn't win. He went. He pulled the Kelly and went 4 times. That was a good question.
Guys, thank you so very much for joining us. A big shout out to our man.
We got to bring it back. I have to touch on something.
Yeah.
Uh-oh.
It's not been said. I've been looking at the fucking comments, and someone needs to give him props. Bill tamed his beard. I don't know if anyone else has not noticed this. He has tamed his beard. I've watched him get drugged through the mud in these fucking comments about his beard, and then he does it, and no one's going to give him the flowers. I'm giving him the flowers. That's a hell of a beard you got there, Bill.
Thank you,
Somebody-
Case. Thank you.
Somebody tweeted to him about one of his shorts yesterday and responded to the tweet and said, "What the fuck is that haircut?" People just can't stop coming after your butt.
Hey, you know what? That means the information that I'm giving them is so damn good. They have no reason but to attack my beard and my haircut.
Yeah, he was like, "What's that haircut?" And I'm like, "Oh,
Ain't nobody attacking that beard now, Bill.
it's just the." I'm like, leave the man alone. Damn.
Bring it on. Because you know what? If you guys want to talk more shit about my beard or my haircut, you got to hit that like button. You got to subscribe.
You do those things. We'll be back Tuesday night, draft show, 8:30 p.m. live here. We're uncertain. We're on, could be a positional ranking, could be a combine preview show. We're not totally sure on where the flavor saver is alive. So we're not sure where we're going with that one. We love you guys so